Hello student, welcome to your Android user interface session number 17. So in the last session we had covered something about toolbars and action bar. We had studied how we can use a toolbar in our activity or in our application. And then we had studied something about menus and how menus can be used in our application. So in today's session we'll study something about a new layout that we have not studied before. So earlier we had studied about linear layout, we had studied about relative layout and constraint layout. So today we'll study about coordinator layout. So there is some similarities between coordinator layout and a constraint layout, but this is a completely different layout. So we'll study what are the differences of this layout and what are the advantages of this coordinator layout. So let's start with coordinator layout. So coordinator layout is a super powered frame layout. So basically what this means is that coordinator layout is a type of frame layout and it is super powered. So it has got multi-dimension capabilities for doing various activities and tasks that we require. So but here what do you need to focus on? Frame layout. So what is frame layout? Frame layout is nothing but a type of a layout which we use in tab structure or menu structure, where we have one page and we have to divide it into tabs. Then we use the frame layout. So just to give you more insight about frame layout, here is a link for frame layout on the developer site. And so basically the frame layout is designed to block out an area on the screen to display a single item. So generally frame layout should be used to hold a single child view because it can be difficult to organize child views in a way that's scalable to different screen sizes without the children overlapping each other. So basically what this basically means is that if we have multiple tabs which are referred to as children here, so each tab will have its own complete area. So that is what it means, that it should hold a single child view. So because it can be difficult to organize child views which can be multiple tabs in a way that is scalable to different screen sizes. For example, there could be many structures in a tab which each tab might have a different table structure or a different size to it. So it can be very difficult to create a single page which can contain all those sizes that are there for all the child tabs inside. So basically it holds different screen sizes but with a single child view. So frame layout is basically a mixture of relative layout and the linear layout. So it's got properties, some properties of relative layout and some properties of linear layout. So for example, in linear layout, when we add views on top of each other, they stack up on top of each other. But in also in frame layout, it's the same case. But it is different from relative layout that we cannot add dependencies the way we can in relative layout. So in frame layout, we cannot add dependencies on those stacked up views. So frame layout is similar to a linear layout in a way that linear layout, there is a property called gravity. So that property, the gravity property exists in the frame layout as well. So that is what is written here. that you can, however, add multiple children to a frame layout and control their position within the frame layout by assigning gravity to each child. So this is something about frame layout. So coordinator layout is a super powered frame layout. So moving on to the next point. Now coordinator layout is intended for two primary use cases. The first one is as a top level application decor or Chrome layout. So basically what this means is that, for example, in a toolbar, like we had seen in our last session, if we toolbar has a fixed size, but if we want to change the size according to the content, or we want to change some properties of the toolbar, so then what we can do is we can use the coordinator layout. So using the coordinator layout will help us in changing the top level application. So this is what the first point is. Now coming on to the second point. So as a container for a specific interaction with one or more child views. So basically, if I explain this with an example, is that if you are scrolling through a page, you have content on a page, and it is inside a list view or a scroll view, and you are basically focused on the content of that page, and you're scrolling through it. So the title bar on the top, and if there is some other menu bar at the bottom or some other element at the bottom, that should be hidden, or that should essentially hide for you to providing maximum amount of space to that scrollable view that you are focused on. So basically that is done through the coordinator layout. So if to explain this concept to you in a better way, here is a GIF file which actually shows the coordinator layout in progression or in work, where you can see that the image, once you scroll up, once this text starts to scroll up, then it starts to move, the image starts to fade away and the area for the content increases. So this is a very good example for explaining coordinator layout, that how does it work. So coming back to our slide here, so the coordinator layout has additional level of control over its child views. It coordinates the animations and transitions of child views with one another. Coordinator layout can also expand the toolbar to show more content or collapse it while scrolling, something that is commonly seen when you scroll a WhatsApp user's profile screen. So this is basically what was shown in the example earlier, that once we start scrolling, the content or the area that is focused on has got more area, while the content that is static or that is not wanted at that time, that just fades away or hides on the top of the side of the scroll. So a behavior implements one or more interactions that a user can take on a child view. These interactions may include drags, swipes, flings, or any other gestures. Children of a coordinator layout may have an anchor. So basically anchor is a type of a property. Like for example, we have ID as a property. So anchor is also a property in the coordinator layout. So this view ID must correspond to an arbitrary descendant of the coordinator layout, but it may not be anchored child itself or a descendant of the anchored child. So what it basically means is that this anchor property is used for a descendant which is inside the coordinator layout, but not inside the child of the coordinator layout. So once this is anchored to the child view, then this can be used to place the floating views relative to the other view. So this is something about the coordinator layout, and so these are our requirements that we will need in our Android Studio uh, to run the coordinator layout basically. So it is firstly add support design library in Gradle. So similarly, we have done a similar exercise of adding libraries in Gradle earlier as well. So similarly, we need to add this COM Android support design 26.0.1 library in our Gradle. So to do our exercise, let's move to our Android Studio. So let's create a new layout. Let's go to layout and new resource file. So here let's name our layout as coordinate _1, and the root element for this should be coordinate layout. So this is the coordinator layout as the root element, and so click OK. And now make sure that the root element in your Java class is also the coordinator layout. So if you go into your Java file, so this content view layout should be the coordinate layout. So it should be the same coordinate that you are using. The file name should be the same, coordinate_1. So this is our coordinate layout that we are using. Also, please make sure that your current main activity class should not contain any list view that we created in the last session, because otherwise the application may crash. So for this, I have just commented the code here. So for commenting the code, what you need to do is you need to just select it, and you need to use the Control plus Shift plus / as your key. So if you press Control plus Shift plus / it will comment the whole code, and again if you use the same, it will uncomment it. So for now we need to comment this so that the compiler does not read this code. So that is why we need to comment this. So now we can move on to our coordinate XML file here, and we need to recreate something similar to what we see on our screens here, with image in the background, a title and some text underneath. So for that, what we need to do here is we need to add the app bar. So basically what we learned in our last session was that how to add a app bar using the toolbar. So now here another method that we can use is the app bar layout method. So this is the app bar layout. So now this will add the app bar directly into our view. So the width can be kept as match parent, and the height we can define as 300 dp for now. So having used this app bar layout here, let's discuss something more about it. So here I have searched the something about app bar layout in the developer website. So app bar layout is basically a vertical linear layout. So if you remember, linear layout has two orientations. One is vertical and the other is horizontal. So app bar layout is a vertical linear layout by default. So which implements many of the features of the material designs app bar concept. So basically which is mostly scrolling gestures. So moving on, children should provide their desired scrolling behavior through set scroll flags and associated layout XML attribute. So basically the scrolling behavior uh, should be supplied with the child view, and that will be supplied through the set scroll flags. So this view depends heavily on being used as a direct child with a coordinator layout. If you use the app bar layout within a different view group, most of its functionality will not work. So this is very important. We should always make sure that the coordinator layout is the app bar layout is used as a direct child within the coordinator layout. The reason being that inside the coordinator layout it will have all its properties that were written here of it being a vertical linear layout, but outside the coordinator layout it will not have those properties. So now moving on, so here we have defined the height of our app bar. But what we don't need is, we don't need to set this height as 300, or basically we don't require this height as 300, but we need to set it as a collapsible view also, because once we start scrolling it needs to collapse and form or take its normal size height once we start scrolling. So for that what we can do is, we have another property here which is the collapsing toolbar layout property. So the width will be match parent and height also will be match parent. So this means that whatever the height and width of the app bar layout will be, this will also form the same width and height. So we need to set the image view inside this collapsing toolbar. So before we do that, let's study more about the collapsing toolbar in our developer website. So this is something about collapsing toolbar. So this collapsing toolbar layout is a wrapper for toolbar which implements a collapsing app bar. It is designed to be used as a direct child of the app bar layout. So this is what we have done there. We have directly used it as a child inside the app bar layout, and it will implement as a collapsing app bar. So now in this collapsing toolbar, what we'll need is an image view, because we need to set an image inside this. So for that what you need to do is add an image view inside this collapsing toolbar. So width can be kept as match parent, height also as match parent. And now after the image view, what we need to add is a toolbar. So we need to add a toolbar with width as match parent and height as the same way as we defined the height last time, so that it takes on the default height of the action bar. Size. So this is what we need to add inside our collapsing toolbar layout. One is the image view and one is the toolbar. So till now we haven't added any image inside our image view, so that is why this area is empty. So to add an image, what we need to do is we need to use source, and from our mipmap folder we can pick up the launcher icon, default launcher icon that we have been using till now. So now here what we need to do is we can add an ID to this app bar so that we can use you can use that ID wherever we need to reference the app bar outside our view. So for example, let's just set the ID here as ID and app bar. So this is our ID for the app bar layout. So now what we need to do here is we need to use a scroll view, but not a normal scroll view, but a nested scroll view. This is a new property which you might not have learned earlier. So we are touching we are giving you an example here. What is a nested scroll view? So this is height as width as match parent and height as also match parent. So basically this will add your scroll view inside the coordinator layout, and because coordinator layout is something similar to a relative layout where views are stacked on top of another, so that is where nested scroll view will help us. So inside this nested scroll view, what we need to do is we need to add some content. So to add some content here, we can just add text and width as match parent and height as wrap content, and we can just use text. For text we can just copy from here and just paste it in our text area. So let's add some more content here. So let's add more content here inside so that it just covers complete page. So you might have a screen similar to what you're seeing here, where the content is coming on top of the image view, the scroll bar, the title, everything. So this is what we need to manage right now. So here we have something about nested scroll view. So basically nested scroll view is just like a scroll view, but it supports acting as both a nested scrolling parent and child on both new and old versions of Android. So basically what it means is that if you have a scroll and you use a nested scroll view, it will include that scroll view inside it, and you can say it will contain that previous scroll view. So this was something about the nested scroll view. Now coming back to our exercise here. So now what we need to do is we need to manage this content so that the content just comes in this white area and not comes on top of the image view or the app bar. So for this, what we need to do is we need to go into the collapsing tool layout and set a behavior. The behavior will enable this text to align according to what we want in our output shown here. Sorry, not in collapsing toolbar layout, but in the nested scroll view layout. Here you need to set a behavior called the behavior, which is app bar scrolling view behavior. So this is the behavior that you want to add. So once you do this, you can see that the content now has automatically come down on the white area. Then after doing this, what we need to do is add a floating action button. So to add a floating action button, this is the function that we need to use. And for now, let's keep the height as wrap content and width as wrap content. And for the image to be kept inside, we can just keep that as we can pick from the mipmap folder as the IC launcher also, because we can include images inside the floating action button also. So now we need to keep it according to our exercise screen as shown here. So let's see how to do. So here we are going to use two important properties which you need to remember. One is we need to anchor or attach this fab icon, the fab button, with the action bar. So to do that what we need to do is we need to use the anchor property. So this is the anchor property, that is what we are going to use here, and we need to anchor this with the app bar. So we have the app bar here that we defined earlier. So we need to anchor this fab button with the app bar. So this is the app bar. So we had already defined the ID for the app bar. So this is the reason why we did that, because we had to use the anchor tag within the floating action button. So now this is what this will do is this will attach the fab button with the app bar layout. But what we need to do is also position it accordingly. So for positioning it, what we need to do is we need to use another important property, which is the anchor gravity property. So this is the anchor gravity property. So here we are going to define the position, which is bottom, and the second is right. So bottom right, and then we'll set a margin for this view, which will be around 16 or 20 dp. So if we set around 16 dp, this will position your fab button according to your exercise screen shown here. So let's just revise what we have done till now. So initially we just started off with a coordinator layout. So we added a coordinator layout here, and then we added the app bar layout. And one thing to keep in mind is that app bar layout works in coordinator layout only, so that is why we've kept it inside. And for this app bar layout we had fixed the height as 300 dp. And then after that we use the collapsing toolbar layout, so that this menu or this app bar could collapse. And inside the collapsing toolbar we used two views. One was the image view and one was the toolbar. So this will help us to show the title with the toolbar once we start scrolling. Then outside the app bar layout, what we did was we kept the nested scroll view. So nested scroll view was kept outside the app bar layout, and for the nested, inside the nested scroll view we had taken a text view and added our text, all this text inside the nested scroll view. So basically what this will do is this will scroll the text that is inside the scroll view. Also we had used a layout behavior property called the app bar scrolling view behavior property, which will scroll the app bar along with the text as we scroll the text. After that we had introduced a floating action button, and then inside that we have to adjust the position of the floating action button, and to attach it with the app bar we had used the anchor property and use the ID of the app bar, and then to provide the positioning to this fab button, we had used the anchor gravity tag. Anchor gravity property. So, and we also use the margin so that there is a margin from the side. So basically this is all what we have done to create this page. And if we run this on our simulator here, so this is the simulator and these are all the elements. This is the image view, this is the app bar, this is the fab button, and this is the text view. So this is something how it will look like. But if you notice that if you start scrolling inside the scroll here, the toolbar does not collapse. But the whole point of doing this exercise was that the toolbar should collapse along with the scroll. So let's see why it is not behaving the way it should. So basically what we need to do is, inside the collapsing toolbar layout, we have to add a property which is scroll flags. So basically this is our property which is scroll flags, and the value can be kept as scroll. So this property was missing from the collapsing toolbar layout. So now if we run this on our emulator and now try to scroll, so now we can see that our app bar is scrolling along with our text. So as soon as we move the text above, the app bar moves along with the text. And also if you notice that the fab button, it shows and hides with some animation because it is anchored to the app bar. So this is fine till now, but if we go back to our GIF image that we had shown you earlier, so here the effect of the scroll was something like this. So where the toolbar and the top activity or the title bar remains static. So if you scroll up, the title bar remains at its place and it is not hidden, whereas in our case the title bar gets hidden. So to achieve this similar sort of action, what we can do is we can use another property along with the scroll, which is exit until collapsed. This is another property which you can use. So this is what we are using here for scroll flags. Scroll with exit until collapsed. So now if we run this and see, so now it is something similar to what we wanted to achieve, whereas the title bar height is according to the toolbar height is according to the action bar. So this is the height of the toolbar, where we have defined the height here. So but if you notice that we can still see some part of our image when it scrolls up. So in order to hide that, what we can do is we can set another property inside the collapsing toolbar layout. So that property is content scrim, and the color can be set as attribute and color primary. So this will take on the primary color of the app, and this content scrim. Now let's see what will happen if we run our application now. So now if we run our application, now the color on top of the toolbar takes effect and the image is hidden from the top. And now you can see this effect into place. So now the only issue is that we cannot see the title on top. So in order to see the title, for that what we need to do is we need to set the toolbar as the app bar and use the ID property inside the toolbar. So to do that we need to use the ID, and ID, we need to set this ID as ID toolbar, and along with that we need to go into our main activity and we need to make sure that our toolbar is active and not commented. And in our main activity Java class, similar to what we did in the last session, we need to call the ID of the toolbar here and view ID by our resource ID toolbar, which will use this ID as toolbar in our Java class, and set support action bar toolbar. So here we use the toolbar as an ID which will be used in our Java class, and here we can set a title, whatever the title that we want to show. For example, if we want to show coordinator, let's suppose we have coordinate 1, coordinate _1 as title. So now if we run our application and see what will happen, now we can see our application has a title, and once we scroll it, the title reduces in size and gets accommodated inside the title bar on top, which is actually the exact way what we wanted. So this is how we can achieve these effects, and this is how we can use the coordinator layout to use in order to achieve these kind of effects in our page. So now if you see this, that our title slides or reduces in size as we scroll up, and as we scroll down it increases in size. Also, if you notice that the image behind just slides up or scrolls up with our scroll view. So there are certain ways we can change the behavior of that. So for that what we need to do is we need to go into the image view, and here what we can do is add another property which is called the collapse mode, and there are three options here, which is parallax, pin and none. So if we set the value as parallax and then run our application and then see what difference does it make. So now for parallax effect, now if you see, our scroll view is moving over the image. Earlier the image was moving as side by side along with the scroll view, but now our scroll area is now moving along with the the scroll view is coming on top of the image, and then the image is disappearing slightly. And if we change it back to none and then run this code, and now see what happens is, now the image slides or scrolls along with the scroll. So this is how you can achieve some effects here, and if you use pin, then let's see what happens. So now if you use pin, pin is almost the same view or the same effect till the time that it just pins it till the top and it fades out once it reaches the top. So it pins it to the top and then fades out. While parallax effect, the parallax effect, it moves the scroll view along with the on top of the image and then fades out. So basically these are some of the effects that you can introduce according to your application or the way you want your application to work. So this is more of a functional or it's something to do with a personal liking, but this is how you can introduce these effects. So now in the coming videos we will try to incorporate coordinator layout and constraint layout, and do some exercises, do some nice exercises on them so that you have more idea of how to use each type of layout. And for now, currently what you can do is you can focus on all the properties that we have used and all the links that we have shown you here about collapsible collapsing toolbar, nested scroll view, app bar layout, etc., and just go through them. So if you have any issues, then please write into us in our forum section, and we'll reply as soon as possible. And let's see you in the next session. Thank you so much.